What makes brawlers like Surge and Spike loved by so many people, while others like Penny or Lola have almost no fan bases? Today, we're gonna figure out what the fan favorite brawlers have in common compared to the forgotten brawlers, so when a new brawler comes out, we can accurately predict whether it'll become a fan favorite. But first, we gotta figure out what the fan favorites actually are, and good thing Lex did the hard work for us by asking 16,000 people what their favorite brawler is. So let's look at the bottom and top 5 to see what kind of brawler that we're dealing with. So at the bottom 5 we have number 5 is Colonel Ruffs, number 4 is Rosa, at number 3 we have Lola as I mentioned, at number 2 we have Meg, and in dead last there's Pam, which is quite surprising actually. I thought people would like Pam more. But now going to the opposite part of the spectrum, the number 5 most liked brawler is Spike. I mean, he's literally the mascot of the game, so fair enough. At number 4 there's Leon, not surprised, he is very fun to play. At number 3 there's Cordelius, number 2 is Crow, and the brawler that the most people said was their favorite is Surge. I'm sure you could pick out each individual brawler and give a reason on why they're placed so high or so low, but what we want to do is to find traits or patterns that fan favorite brawlers typically have, so we can get some kind of trend. That is how we can actually find out what makes a brawler so popular. So we're going to compare the number of votes that each brawler got with a bunch of other factors like rarity, strength, release date, skins and all that to find out what correlates to popularity the most. So let's start with Brawler Type. Seemingly people like playing assassins, but do the results actually reflect that? Well, the most unpopular Brawler type is the Controller, with only 137 votes per brawler. These are the brawlers that have control effects like Charlie or Lou. The next 4 categories are supporters like Byron and Sandy, tanks, with that's self-explanatory, artillery, which is basically throwers, and marksmen, aka snipers. These are all very similar in votes though, so I wouldn't say that controllers are definitively the most unpopular type. The next 2 are the big ones though. In second place is the damage dealers with 228 votes per brawler. These are the normal ones like Colt and Spike. At number 1 though, by a long shot, is indeed assassins with 372 votes, and if you look at the rankings, it totally makes sense. 5 of the top 7 brawlers are assassins, but like with any dataset, there are exceptions, like how Miko only had 108 votes here. But now we know, fan favorite brawlers are most likely to be assassins. But what does that mean? Let's look at the specific stats to find out specifically what kind of brawlers players gravitate to. So let's start with HP. Here's a graph showing HP against votes, and each dot is a brawler here. For example, there's Frank with the most HP on the right, and there's Tick with the least. So as you can see, the most popular brawlers are typically at the lower end in terms of HP, like Surge and Crow here. The most popular brawler with a good amount of HP is Buzz, right there. But that could just be because most brawlers don't have a lot of HP. Like for example, there's only 8 brawlers here with over 10k HP, so I don't think this is strong enough evidence that lower HP brawlers are more popular. Next, let's look at speed. Typically, you would think that fast moving brawlers are more fun, so more popular, but is that actually true? First, we can basically ignore slow and the very slow category, because only 8-bit is very slow and only Bonnie and Surge are slow, and that isn't nearly enough brawlers to paint a good picture. For example, Surge really screwed up the slow category, even though he becomes very fast at the second upgrade. Now the other 3, the normal speed comes in at 162 votes per brawler, the fast speed beats it at 196 votes, but the very fast speed knocks it out of the park with 323 votes per brawler. So it looks like popular theory is right again. I don't need to explain why moving fast is more fun, surely. But what about range? Do players like playing longer or shorter range brawlers? Well, here's the results. Now you could say that there are more high dots here in the long range area, But that's just because there are more longer range brawlers in general. Look at how dense the dots are here at the 8 to 9 tile range area, compared to the 4 to 6 tiles here. So I can't exactly give a conclusion that longer range brawlers are more popular. This just isn't strong enough evidence to say that. So far, we found out that the most popular brawlers tend to be an assassin and move super fast. But now let's look at the other aspects of a brawler, like rarity. That's an obvious one. Maybe people like rare brawlers more because those are the first brawlers that we unlock, or maybe it's legendaries because unlocking it is always a special occasion, and the mechanics are just more interesting in general. Okay, so everything feels pretty even. Whoa, okay, looks like the legendary theory is correct here by a long shot. All these rarities have like 160, 170 votes, they're pretty even, and legendary just shot up here with 396 votes. Just look at the rankings here. Literally all 5 of the most popular brawlers are legendary. There is a caveat though. For example, Surge and Cordelius weren't always legendary, they were chromatic until only 6 months ago. So when you fell in love with the brawlers, it's most likely during the time when they were chromatic. So I think we should add an X chromatic category to reflect the situation accurately. So the rares and super rares obviously stay the same here. The epics actually gain 20 votes. So chromatics that turned into epics aren't popular at all apparently. Mythics drops a bit, and legendary here drops almost 60 votes, and X chromatics end up with a strong 206 votes, partly because it stole the number 1 and number 3 most popular brawlers away from legendaries. But legendary still has a very strong lead here, even though it shrunk quite a bit. Now let's look at strength in the meta. Surely stronger brawlers are more likely to be popular, right? So I took Karos's pro tier list and compared it to Lex's popularity survey. I mean, they should have done this years ago. That this would be such a cool collab idea, and now I have to do it between them, right? Well, anyways, here's the results. 1 horizontally means F tier, and 6 here means S tier. So at first it seems like there isn't much of a pattern. The top brawlers are just up there randomly. You can say that there aren't any top brawlers in D or F tier, but there are only 7 brawlers in the first place, so. But if we ignore the iconic favorites like Spike and Leon, down there, if you squint just a little, you can trace a line right there, showing that as a brawler gets stronger, it gets a tiny bit more popular. Now that's a very weak correlation, but there is a little bit of something there, and that does make sense if you think about it. Fan favorites like Surge and Mortis are going to be used no matter their strength, but for others, players might only use them often when they're strong, and that's when they're reminded of how fun that brawler is, hence the slight trend. For example, here's Max and here's Sandy. They got Hyperchargers and now they're very strong, putting them higher in popularity. I bet that before the Hyperchargers, they're not nearly as popular. Now, we talked about this briefly, but let's look at use rate in more detail. So here's showing the use rate in percentage against votes. So this is probably the clearest trend so far. The higher the use rate, the higher the popularity. You might think, duh, obviously. But what's interesting is that strength didn't correlate a lot with popularity, but this did. Meaning that strength and use rate don't correlate a lot. So people don't play strong brawlers nearly as much as they play their fan favorites. Which makes sense given the number of Edgars and Mortises and stupid dynamite I see every game. But Cordelius here is actually an interesting exception. He's the 3rd most popular, and yet she's used even less than Jackie down there. So let me know your theories on why that's the case. Now before we look at a very interesting one at the end, how about Hyperchargers? Do players like brawlers with Hyperchargers more? Well, it looks like they do. Hyperchargers have more than 100 votes above non-Hyperchargers, but there is a question of causation here. Do people like brawlers because they have a hypercharge, or does the dev team give more popular brawlers hypercharges on purpose? I think it's more the dev team giving more popular brawlers hypercharges, but it definitely is a combination of the two. Either way, it doesn't change the fact that hypercharged brawlers tend to be more popular. Okay, here's a good one. Brawler release date. Maybe players like OG Brawlers more because of the nostalgia, or maybe it's newer Brawlers because they're fresh and they tend to have more interesting abilities. Well, there we have it. That straight line on the left is when Brawl Stars went beta with 15 Brawlers, and it went global right there with Leon. So not much of a pattern there. There are quite a lot of OG Brawlers high up in this straight line, like Spike and Crow, so that could be nostalgia coming into play, but there's not a lot in this region, even though that's still 4 to 5 years ago, which is a long time. But what if we compare it to the Google Trends chart of the popularity of the game? Maybe Brawlers get more popular when the game is more popular, right? No, still nothing. I guess Brawler release dates and popularity just don't correlate. So let's recap again. So far we know that the most popular Brawlers tend to be an assassin, moves very fast, has high use rates, is a legendary, and has a hypercharge. But now the wild card of the video, how about the number of skins? Look, hear me out. I'm sure you guys have your favorite skins, and most of you probably are very attached to your favorite skins because they mean something special. And obviously, the more skins a brawler has, the more likely it has one of your favorite skins. So what if those skins make you more attached to the brawler itself, so you end up liking the brawler in general as well? Well, here's the result. So brawlers with less than 4 or 5 skins are definitely not popular. You can see they're all bunched up down low here, but at the 5 to 8 skin region, that is where you get the fan favorites like Surge and Crow, and then it fades out at the end just because there aren't a lot of brawlers there. So there does seem to be a trend here, but not in the typical sense. Before a brawler has 4 to 5 skins, it's most likely going to be unpopular, but once a brawler reaches that, the number of skins doesn't really have much of a correlation anymore, no matter how many more skins the dev team adds. And that makes sense if you think about it. Once a brawler gets 4 to 5 skins, and let's say 2 or 3 of them are solid, that's when there's enough variety for you to have a collector's mindset, to try to get all the great skins for this brawler that you already like. So you can turn on the randomized skins and every game will be a surprise on what skin, and that's just gonna make you like the brawler even more. But again, there's the question of causation. What if the dev team is giving more popular brawlers more skins? It would make sense. They're incentivized to do that. The more fans a brawler has, the more people will buy their skin. And Fang is an example that's mentioned a lot since he has been getting skins update after update after update. But like with Hyperchargers, I think it goes both ways. It's even a cycle, you could say. When a brawler is released and people like it, the dev team makes a skin to cater to those fans, which makes more people like the brawler because of the cool skin, which incentivizes the dev team to make even more, and so on. And while all this happens, the more forgotten brawlers are just left in the dust. So let's add skins to our list, and here is our general guidelines on what popular brawlers tended to look like. Obviously, this is a very rough idea based on patterns, but guess what brawlers fit into all these requirements? Crow and Leon, i.e. the number 2 and number 4 most popular brawlers. So there is definitely some element of truth in our patterns, even though you can't rely on them, okay? There are just patterns. And if you want to know more about the actual survey and where your favorite brawler ranks, here's a video from Lex about the survey.